Hi, welcome to Mark's English Academy, the place to learn English fast. I want to ask you a question. What are your plans for tonight? How would you answer that question? Which answer is correct? I will bake cookies. I'll be baking cookies. I'm going to bake cookies. Or I'm baking cookies. Which answer do you think is correct? You're right, because they're all correct. You could say any one of these as an answer to this question. Most native English speakers wouldn't say the first one, I will bake cookies. That doesn't sound natural. But I'll be baking cookies, that's okay. I'm going to bake cookies, that's good. And I'm baking cookies, that's also good. The last two are probably the most natural answer to this question. So in this series, I'm going to teach you verb tenses. And I think you're going to find these lessons to be the most helpful lessons out of all my lessons. Because anytime I say the word verb tense, my students' ears perk up and they say, teach me about verb tenses, because they're very confusing. I know, they are very confusing. And in these lessons, I'm going to try to make it a little bit easier for you. The reason I asked you this question was to show you that sometimes a verb tense is your choice. You can choose some different verb tenses. 1, 2, or 3, or more might be correct. For example, here, this is the simple future tense. I'm going to bake cookies. This one is the future continuous tense. I'll be baking cookies. And this one is the present continuous tense. So they're all correct. And you can choose how you want to answer the question. And it's all the same event, baking cookies. It's one event, but you can answer the question with several different verb tenses. So in English, we have 12 verb tenses. And in this series, I'm going to teach you how and when to use each of those verb tenses. Here are the three most common verbs in the English language: be, have, and do. If you can understand these three verbs, it will really help in your understanding of verb tenses. Okay, I'm going to teach you something very important about these three verbs. But first, I just want to review the conjugation of each of these verbs. So when we change the verb like this, we call it verb conjugation. So the verb be can be conjugated these ways. I am, you are, he, she, it is, we are, you, plural, are, they are. Okay, remember that all of these are the verb be. Even though the word be isn't here, they're all different forms of the verb be. Now, have is a little bit easier. I have, you have, he has, we have, you have, they have. And do, I do, you do, he does, we do, you do, they do. So I wanted to show you this to remind you that verbs change forms. And that's what's so confusing about verb tenses, because the verbs change forms in each different verb tense. So next I'm going to tell you something about these three verbs that's very important. But first, it's sponsor time. This lesson is brought to you by Nobody.
On the field again, he's thinking of a second, and he'll get back once again. Oh, got him! He's got him! Has he got him? He goes again. There is a man at deep point, and the catch taken. That's in the air. There is deep mid wicket, and he doesn't mess out there. Number 2, Ryan, do the fielder. That's heaped away on the onside. This should be all over. It's the Mumbai Indians.
Instead of watching me watch cricket highlights, you could be watching me promote your product or service. So these three verbs, be, have, and do, they each have two different functions that can be easily confused. One of their functions is to be a helping verb. Now, a helping verb is a verb that helps the main verb in a sentence. So let's look at this example here. I am drinking water. I am drinking water. Am is the helping verb, and drinking is the main verb. Okay, so let's look at the verb be first. It can be two functions, helping and linking. The kids are going to bed. So in this example, the verb be is a helping verb. It's helping the main verb, which is going. Okay, she is hungry. So in this case, it's a linking verb. It's linking she and hungry. This is what it means to link. Link. It's linking she and hungry. She is hungry. Okay, now let's look at the verb have. Have can also be two functions, helping and possessing. So have you eaten yet? Have you eaten yet? I haven't. I'm hungry. I'm going to eat after making this lesson. But first, I want to teach you this so that you understand verb tenses in the future. Okay, have you eaten yet? That the verb have is the helping verb, and eaten is the main verb in the sentence. Possessing. I have $1,000. I have $1,000. It means I possess $1,000, or I own $1,000. I wish I owned $1,000 right now. Then I would go buy myself some good food to fill up my stomach. Okay, so the third verb, do, it also has two functions, helping and performing. So, do you like cake? Do is the helping verb, and like is the main verb. So when the word do is used to start questions, then it's always a helping verb. So, do you like cake? Did she send me an email? Does he want a cookie? Okay, those are all helping verbs. So I do well on multiple choice exams. So in this sentence, do is the main verb, and it means to perform. I do well on multiple choice exams. It means I perform well on multiple choice exams. That's true, actually. I do well on multiple choice exams. Okay, now I want you to read this sentence, and I want you to tell me which are the helping verbs and which are the main verbs in the sentence. So this might look a little bit crazy because there are 4 hads in a row. Look, had. All the faith he had had no effect on the outcome of his life. This is a good sentence. It's correct. Okay, so I want you to think about it. which hads are helping verbs and which hads are the main verbs. If you want to think about it for a bit, then click on the pause button, because I'll tell you right now. The first and the third are helping verbs, and the second and the fourth are main verbs. So what this sentence means is, all the faith he had possessed had had no effect on the outcome of his life, had resulted in no effect on the outcome of his life. In English, sometimes we're lazy and we use different words to mean many different things. In this case, this is something a native English speaker would say. All the faith he had had no effect on the outcome of his life. Sometimes it's easier to use the word do than to use the word perform, or easier to use the word have than to use the word possess. Okay, so just so you know that, because sometimes this can be confusing when you see it in a sentence and you don't know which function the verb is performing. Okay, anyway, I hope this makes sense to you, and I hope this helps make it a little bit easier to understand verb tenses in the future lessons. I'll be referring back to this lesson when I talk about the verb tenses in my future lessons, so remember this. Okay, if you think this sentence is crazy, then click on the like button right down there, and I'll see you over in the next lesson.